sending out frequencies underneath the streets of Cincinnati. It's WTBS, the basement show after dark with Lee Zellars. Well, thanks for tuning in again to another episode of the Basement Show After Dark with your host, Lee Zellars. And as you can see, I don't have my newspapers. I forgot to pick up my USA Today and my Enquirer to find out what's going on nationally and locally. So I really got to depend on the internet this time around. And I'm seeing this story, geez, this took place, I believe, this must have took place today. In local news. No fatalities when Greyhound carrying 52 crash in Butler County. Ah man, I was at a function earlier today where someone had mentioned that to me. The function, it was a baby shower for my niece, Laquita. Congratulations. And this was mentioned then. My computer want to act a little wacky on me, which they do when you try to read something. They never want to cooperate. Thank God for technology, right? I guess so. So I'm having a problem. I just saw the story and now it's acting weird. Like I said, technology does that. Now I don't want to see the video. Now, not what I was asking for. But I guess that's what they're trying to show you, and that's not what I'm trying to see. Well, I'm gonna move on. Oh, okay, let me see if I can maybe get this to operate properly. But in Liberty Township, Ohio, at least 34 people were injured when a Greyhound bus overturned on Interstate 75 in Butler County early Saturday, which is today, authorities says. Jeez. The accident happened just before 4 a.m. on northbound I-75 near mile marker 26 between State Route 129 and State Route 63. Wow, I hate to hear that. The crash occurred when the bus carrying 52 people drove off the right side of the roadway, first striking a tree and a chain link fence, then overturning, sliding to a stop in a cornfield, the Ohio State Patrol said in a news release story. Have we found out what happened? Because that time of the morning, 4 a.m., and riding off the roadside, it could be a blowout tire and it could be a person falling asleep. That's not what I know for a fact, but I know that type of thing happened at that time because of the hour and usually because of sleep. I don't see where it says exactly what happened. I guess that's still being under investigation. We'll find more information out on that, but I'm glad it wasn't as serious as it could have been. Let's go over here into some national stuff. Because I don't want to spend a lot of time, I got a very interesting guest coming on today, Michelle Bless, who is the author of a book called Out of the Darkness. You want to hear about that. Wow. Emotional Paula Deen to fans. I'm back. Did you ever really go away? I mean, the celebrity chef, 66, made her first public appearance since settling the racial discrimination lawsuit that practically destroyed her empire, and was moved to tears after receiving a 10-minute standing ovation at the Metro Cooking and Entertainment Show in Houston. Surprised it wasn't deep somewhere in Mississippi. These are tears of joy, y'all, she said. Y'all, I say y'all. I mean, I'm not from the South, but I mean, some people say that's a Southern. Well, my parents were from the South, but I say y'all. This is my first time out in 3 months. The one place I wanted to take my first step out was in Texas, not Harlem, probably, or maybe Atlanta City or somewhere, Atlanta, ATL. She said Texas. You are forgiving folks with hearts as big as your state, because a lot of the people she probably was talking to was black. She added, we all experience pain some way, but pain is also a good thing because it makes you grow. Let me go down here a little further. Following her emotional outburst, Dean quickly pulled herself together after joining sons Jamie and Bobby for a cooking demo stuffed up by a cameraman's lens and proclaimed, I'm back. Well, that's good to hear. You know, Paula Deen, that you're back. Just try not to let the word nigger come out your mouth again, and I guess things will be okay. This story is not, well, it is on the news, or well, it is online, but I just want to touch on this. I watched this very interesting documentary last night. It's called Blackfish. I encourage you to watch it. Blackfish is a documentary about so-called killer whales that SeaWorld has used for basically entertainment. Very interesting. SeaWorld, basically, they did not want this story to come out. And if you watch it, you'll see why. I can't remember the name of this particular killer whale that, it's a deep story how they, like, you know, basically took this baby killer whale from his parents. The parents was like out in the ocean watching this whole abduction take place, just pulling the child away from his parents. And it's not too much different from some things that have happened in past history, but we're not going there. But so they just snatched this kid away, took the kid off, basically, you know, I guess the fishermen or whatever sold it to SeaWorld, and they raised this. It's a whole deep story how they raised this this male orca, and this orca was like causing all kind of problems for SeaWorld, from people being killed and injured, and they just wouldn't let the orca go. You know, mainly because it was a male orca that they had in captivity, and mainly because his semen went for a lot of money. The crazy thing when I watched the documentary concerning the semen of this orca that they were selling, it was how they had to retrieve the semen. Well, I mean, I thought maybe, I don't know, they would have used some type of giant hypodermic needle or something, but basically they had one of the divers masturbate the orca till he had an erection and produced, till he ejaculated, basically. It was kind of creepy watching this man do this to this sea animal, and him with his hands, and it was really, my thought was, because he's a diver, he's one of the trainers that works there at SeaWorld, I don't know, for me, just me, if I was a diver and part of my job was, you know, we need for you to go down and basically jack off the orca, and after doing something like that, the thing I would have said to the my boss, the owners or whatever, after I do this, please don't ask me to get in the pool with the orca. I don't know, I just don't think that'd be a good idea, you know, after all of this stroking and all of this stuff. And the orca's basically laying on his back. If you watch the documentary, I mean, I'm not saying some stuff that didn't take place. It's in the documentary called Blackfish, if you want to see this. I just don't think it'd be a good idea if that diver was to get in the water after that, because I think that orca probably would have possibly swum alongside him and gave him a wink. Hey buddy, remember me? It felt pretty good. Might want to return the favor. I'm just saying. So much for all of that. I'm finna get things ready. My guest, Michelle Bless, is finna come on The Basement Show After Dark. She's gonna sit down. She's gonna talk to me about her book, Out of the Darkness. And I want you to stay put. Don't shut off your internet. Watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and hope you'll enjoy my guest who's coming up next, Michelle Bless. Well, we're back, and I have my my guests, who I know a lot of you are out there interested in hearing from, and if you have heard some things about her, you probably want to hear more. On the Basement Show After Dark, I have author Michelle Bless. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Glad that you could make it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, glad to have you here. So, let's just jump right into this. So you're born here, born and raised here?
Yes, I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I grew up in Walnut Hills.
Okay.
Walnut Hills and also Madisonville.
Okay.
My grandparents used to live in Madisonville when we were little. My dad used to send us there in the summertime and the weekends. So I grew up in both cities,
okay,
both communities.
Okay, that's kind of a nice thing to have that sort of, experience from two different communities, because sometimes it can be a little different. I mean, how things are in Avondale. Remember back in the day, it was kind of like if you was from Avondale, basically you wasn't welcome in Cumminsville.
At all.
You
When you live in one community, you just can't go into another community. I mean, and they would know that you're not from their community.
It wasn't about gangs or nothing. It was just simply you're not from Cumminsville.
Exactly.
And because you're not from Cumminsville, we're not crazy about people from Avondale.
Exactly.
So.
And see, back in our era, or my era, 60s and early 70s, the community where we grew up, us being kids, it's totally different with the kids today.
Yes.
The teenagers, they have no respect. I mean, I remember a time where you can leave your door open, your windows unlocked, and people like, you can't do that. Well, no, you can't do that now.
No.
But it was a time when you could.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that, being an evangelist and being in the deeply spiritual, you probably got a good sense of a lot of this stuff, with this change in behavior and what's behind it in a big sense.
Absolutely. For me, well, when I grew up with a lot of abuse. My dad was very abusive towards my mother, and we would watch him beat my mom, and of course beat me and my siblings. Very strict. And because of that, I end up I was sexually abused by my grandfather from the age of 6 to 12.
Okay.
And then at 12 years old, I got too old for my grandfather. And he wanted to mess with my sister, my baby sister, and that's when I stood up and said, well, no, you're not going to touch my sister, and I was going to tell.
Right.
And some people ask me, well, why didn't you tell when he was messing with you from the age of 6 all the way up to 12? Again, my dad was very abusive. Like I said, he would beat my mom and us, me and my siblings. If it wasn't every day, it was every other day. And so going to my grandparents' house was like going to Disneyland, going to the zoo. So I just looked at the fact of my grandfather doing what he was doing just for a brief moment, and I said, well, it's going to pass. Because I felt like if I would have told, then he would have got rid of my grandfather, and we wouldn't have had grandparents' house to go. And that's a terrible thing for a young child to think about and make a decision. But that's what happened to me. And from my dad beating me, and from my grandfather making me his girlfriend from 6 to 12, and then 2 of my uncles and cousin, they took over from the age of 12 all the way up to 15. And then at 15, I ran away from home, came back home, and I graduated from high school, and I wanted to get away. At that point when I was 15, I had so much rage and anger because I never talked about what was going on with me as a child. And so I talked my mother into signing me into the military, and my mom did that behind my dad's back, and she took a beating for that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had a lot of rage. I had a lot of anger. I didn't trust anyone, especially men, because all the men that I looked up to, my dad, he beat me. My grandfather, he abused me. So I went, my life spiraled. Went into the military, got raped in the military after serving a couple of years. And at that point, when I got raped by my commander, I had a nervous breakdown. Everything just started rushing back to when I was a little girl. So I'm saying that to say, if you don't deal with your issue,
right,
and you just put it away and
right,
you medicate it, and that's what I did, medicated with alcohol and drugs,
right,
didn't want to think about it. And finally, when my commander raped me, I just snapped. Came out, started selling drugs, and I ended up being a drug dealer to a drug user. I became my best customer. And at this point, I had got married. I had the nice house and the nice car and a great job. But the drugs took over and I lost everything.
Okay.
And so I went from having a house and a husband and a little dog, Toto, to sleeping on park benches, sleeping in abandoned buildings, under bridges. Did that for several years. I was disowned by my family. I had no friends and family, so I had to do what I had to do to survive.
Right.
So I fell into drugs, prostitution, stealing, all types of stuff, that you can imagine in the street life.
Okay, so the rape in the military, I mean, it just goes to show, because how many years ago was that?
Over 20 years.
And thinking about, I didn't mean to cut you, but thinking about it today, it's just that's a whole other topic, but it just goes to show that that's been an ongoing issue in the military, and it's just sort of hitting light, become where it's being talked about more than
I want to elaborate on that for a minute. When I came out of the military, and basically they threw me out, they kicked me out. And they said that they kicked me out with a dishonorable discharge and that I was a burden to the Navy. But I fought for 20 years. And just 3 years ago, with my attorney, I was able to turn that around. And they had to retroact me from the time of discharge.
Okay.
So total disability and with an honorable discharge, service connected. And I was one of the first few women that won.
Okay.
They have what is called PTSD,
right,
which is post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
And because in my case, opened a door for many other women to now come and fight.
Okay.
I found out, and I have met several men that were raped in the military.
Wow. Well, that story, that's
taboo.
Yeah, and that's beginning to come out now.
It's coming out.
When you hear it, it's kind of like, what kind of military do we got here?
Exactly.
I mean, it's horrible that you're raping the female military people, but God, you're raping men that's in there as well.
And see, it's worse for a man, and I gotta say this because the shame.
Yeah.
Because see, a man, if they feel like if they tell what happened to them,
right,
they feel like that person's not gonna look at them as a man anymore.
Right. Well, he's a soldier.
Exactly.
He represents. He's a soldier.
Exactly.
So how can I be this soldier, this tough guy, when this violation has taken place to me that stripped me of everything that supposed to make me be this soldier?
Exactly.
So,
but it has happened, and
now I want to go into a little bit about your book, but also I see where you said you have you was a radical Christian for 14 years. What do you mean by
radical Christian?
Yeah.
Because for 40 years, I held on to my abuse. I didn't know how to deal with it. So the way I dealt with my pain was use drugs, alcohol, sex. I hated men. Because mind you, that I didn't have a man figure to love me, to teach me. So once I became from a child to a teenager, I felt like what men took from me, I'm going to take from them.
Okay.
Okay?
But I think that's how, and I think, because I've heard women say that.
I mean, it is true. I never experienced love. I never knew what love, I was never told, Michelle, I love you. As a little girl, I never received a hug or anything like that. So I didn't know what that was.
Right.
I had so much anger. And so I was in the streets, I was a pimptress. I was a thief. I was a booster. I did so many things, you know, and then I hit that rock bottom, and I went from being a $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour cowgirl, and used to look at women on drugs in the street and say, I would never be like that.
Right.
Karma. But when you become your own best customer,
Right.
and
yeah, you can get there.
Absolutely, because when you become your best customer, you're
need
going to do what you got to do to get your next fix.
You need to get the fix. So you can't no longer at one point where you say you just $500,000 car girl. Now
not anymore.
You
$20 trick.
It's like whatever I can
$10 trick, $20 trick, and I never thought that I would succumb to that, but I did. I had to do what I had to do to survive, and I'm a radical Christian and a God chaser because I was in darkness for so long. See, I didn't believe in God. You couldn't even talk to me about God. I was an atheist.
So yeah,
I was a devil worshiper. I was a witch.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because I saw that and I was wondering, because I know you know your book is called Out of the Darkness, and that's based on
my life story.
Your life story. Mm-hmm. So the atheist, and I think sometimes when people who are Christians hear of atheists, sometimes they think, well, if you don't worship God, what do you worship? And sometimes it's just they don't worship anything.
Atheists, you don't believe in.
They don't believe in nothing.
You don't believe God on this.
But
there is no God.
You went from not believing in God, but somewhere you shifted where you did believe in the devil, where you said you was worshiping.
Well, let me say this, and you know, a lot of people, you know, might wonder, wow, is this really so much? But believe me, the devil and darkness is real.
You can't have the other without one. You can't
well,
have,
absolutely.
Right.
My mother was born from Kingston, Jamaica, and so she had 22 sisters and brothers. And my grandfather, which is her father, was a voodoo priest. Okay. And on my father's side, he has 17 sisters and brothers from South, and they were witches and warlocks. So I'm born into nothing but darkness. Okay. And so my grandfather was a devil worshiper. I mean, like, he had his friends where they get together and they wore the black robes and drink blood out the bowls and the candles and the Ouija boards and the pentagrams and the tarot cards, the whole 9 yards. And I was taught to levitate tables and chairs. I was taught to cast spells on people. And people need to understand that the devil has so much hatred towards mankind that he don't want you to know who God is. He don't want you to know your purpose. He don't want you to know your gift. So he takes God's gift and turn it for him. So the spells and stuff that I did and doing the things that I did as a devil worshiper in the spirit realm, you know, seeing demons and, you know, and stuff like that. And that's all I saw. I mean, I thought I was going crazy because I couldn't understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. But I got so used to it as an adult. But now, once I met God, you got to understand, I was a person that didn't believe in God, and I wasn't going to believe in nothing that I couldn't see. Okay? So I didn't think it was real. And mind you, you're talking about coming from serving the devil, seeing powers from the devil. I was given powers. I watched people do things. You know, I was taught things to do. Mm-hmm. And then I was so broken, so battered, so abused. I was unrecognizable. Mm-hmm. No man, no woman, no child brought me out of where I came from. So once I was snatched out of darkness from this unseen being that I didn't believe exist and turned my life around. Where I'm at today, I knew God was real.
Well, what was that? Because if you're so deep in this pit, in a sense, that you're following the evil side, but it has to be, what was that trigger that said, where he reached in and said, this is not for you. Because you need to go this way.
What it was, 15 years ago, I was on my way to go commit suicide. And I was raped the night before. I had suffered a black eye and a broken ankle from my ex-husband. And mind you that all I knew was darkness and pain and misery. And this lady, as I'm walking up the street on my crutches, this lady said to me, "Sister, why don't you let me pray for you? Let me pray for your ankle." And I said, "Prayer don't work." And why did I say that? Because it's one thing you don't say to a Christian. Prayer don't work.
Right.
So she ran across the street to me, and she touched me. And for the first time in my life, I felt this, the only way I can explain it, it was such calmness and such peace that came over me. And I was the type of person that I had to sleep with one eye open and look behind my back at all times. But I felt safeness. I never felt that before. And she wrapped her arms around me and she started talking in, well, it's called tongues now, but I didn't know what it was. And she was praying over me, and this spirit, God's spirit, angels, they just came over me, and for the first time my eyes was open and I saw angels. Wow. I never saw angels before. I always saw and dwell around demons. Right. And I saw this light. And this light was so bright, yet I was able to look at it. And it touched me. And I felt this calmness and this peace. And for the first time I heard in a soft, utter voice that I love you. And I was never told that. And I cried, like, what, you know, and I'm like, what is that? I was scared. I wanted to go away, but yet I didn't want to leave that light. I didn't want to leave what
you've been longing for. Basically, it's something that, because I've heard young women say that as if, you know, saying, "Hey, I got daddy issues." Basically, I never felt love. My daddy never hugged me and said he loved me. Not and I guess in some, like in the situation that you were in, you know, longing for the love from a father, a hug to say I love you, but if it comes in a way of abuse,
exactly. I was never taught love. My mother couldn't give me love because she wasn't receiving love. She was battered and abused by my dad. Right. And it's strange. I never held my mother accountable. I never hated her because I looked at her as being a victim like me and my siblings. Right. I had so much hatred for my dad that me and my brother wrote a journal. We would plan my father's death, how we were going to kill him, because I was going to kill my dad at 15. That's why I left. Okay.
So where's your dad? Is he still alive?
Well, today my dad turned his life around. Wow. He is serving the Lord Jesus Christ. We have a relationship, and we began our relationship in 2009. Wow. And doing well. And I never thought that I would have a relationship with my dad because I had so much hatred in me. When I met Jesus and when he spoke to me, you know, all I had in me was so much hurt, so much pain, so much despair, so much misery, and so much hatred. And God said, if you trust me, I will renew you. I will restore you. I will refine you. And I will remove all those things.
You know,
we had to call him by his first name. And I never understood that. I mean, from the time we were able to talk, he taught us, no daddy. Call him by his name, David. So one day at the age of 9, I'll never forget that we were sitting outside, me and the neighborhood kids, and they all called him Mr. David. And one time, one little girl said, "Well, Michelle, why do you always call Mr. David David? Why you don't call him Dad?" So, you know, even though I was afraid of my dad, I wasn't scared of neighborhood kids, so don't be daring me. It was like, I can call my dad whenever I want to. And as soon as I said that, my dad pulled up in the driveway. So it felt like my brain and eyeballs and everything just fell straight down my feet. Wow. So he got out the car, he walked up and everybody go, "Hey, Mr. Dave." And as soon as he stepped over me to go past me, I said, "Hey, Dad." And that's all I remember. And when I woke up, I was on my back and my dad was sitting in a chair. He had the chair over me with a double-barrel shotgun. And he had the end of that shotgun, but to my mouth. And I remember when I came, you know, conscious, I was choking. Didn't realize I was choking in my blood. So I turned my face over and spit out the blood. And my dad said, "B, didn't I tell you not to ever call me Dad?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "If you ever call me Dad again, you MFB, I will blow your effing brains out."
Wow. That's kind of deep, because when you were saying that, in not calling me Dad, I don't know why I was just thinking of Joseph Jackson. I mean, I know that there's always been stories about how he had sort of abused Michael and some of the other kids, but Janet said that in several interviews that he told us, I'm Joseph to you.
And you know, it's kind of interesting you brought the Jackson 5. I was never allowed to be, to do anything. So TV was my life. So I would make believe that the people on TV, I was part of their family for a moment. And I related to the Jackson 5. It was as if I knew them, but yet I didn't know them.
And that could have been that experience. Some kind of way you might have been connected to them, a sense of feeling something from them, because their situation supposedly was very abusive.
Very abusive.
And Janet said it several times. I mean, Michael called him Joseph.
They said certain things that they portrayed and talked about their life, and I would get flashbacks of my life, and it was like on point. And that's something you can't make up. Who wants to be abused? So I'm saying this to say, when you was getting back to forgiveness, I swore, I gave my soul to the devil how I was going to kill my dad. I'll never forgive him. Right. He can drop dead as far as I'm concerned. Right. I will always hate him. I will always be bitter. This is who I was. So the reason why I'm saying that Jesus is real, because he took it away from me. Wow. So I know he has to be real, because couldn't no man took away the hatred or the pain.
Right.
It was God Almighty.
Right.
See, you have to forgive, because if you don't forgive, all it's going to do is continue to eat you up inside.
See, this is the thing where, because I have people, it's like some people who know me, and it might be related to certain individuals, and they'll say, you got to forgive this person because, it's not doing you no good. You just walking around with this hate and this bitter inside. My whole thing, like I explained it, no, I'm not. I'm not walking around bitter, and I don't walk around with this hate. I just can't find myself to say, because they have never presented, it's like, it also seemed like it helps when a person comes to you and say, what I did was real messed up. I shouldn't have done that. Can you forgive me? Because I've had people who, like, I've had issues with, and they've come to me like that. Like, the thing I did, man, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And I kind of like, what, and I can let it go.
And that was a couple years ago. Well, we started our relationship in 2009 because he said to me, "I love you." My dad never said those words. So I was like, "What?" He said, "I love you." And then the next thing he said was, "I wasn't a good father."
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional.
That's
but
okay.
Because he never said that.
Right.
He never admit to anything.
Acknowledge to any
So now he didn't go into details like I wanted to.
Right.
Like I wanted to say, well, why did you put that gun in my mouth? And why did you hit me with an iron? My dad was brutal.
Right.
And he just, I didn't go there because he said, "I know I wasn't a good father. I'm sorry for what I done to you. And I'm sorry for what I done to your mother."
So it's almost in a sense where a lot of times we would like to have the answer to, well, what was it that happened to you that made you become this person to treat me like that? And that's kind of like, it's sort of not as big of an issue when the person can acknowledge the fact that I know what I did was horrible, and I know what I did was wrong, and now I want to say to you,
I did so much in my life that I thought that I can never be forgiven for, because I never forgive myself. I would walk around with my head down. I thought I was nothing. I was always was told that I was ugly and that I would never be no good except on my back. But I met this God, and that was lifted off of me. He forgave me.
Right.
And took my sins and threw it in the sea of forgiveness.
Right.
He don't remember no more. So if God, which he did, forgave me, I have to forgive.
Right.
But I asked God to help me. See, here's the thing. Don't try to do it on your own.
Right.
Because when Michelle tried to do it on her own, I couldn't get rid of the pain. I couldn't get rid of the anger, the hatred. But I said, with God, God, you have to do this.
Right.
And he did.
Wow. Well, we're kind of running out of time, but I gotta
have me back.
I gotta have you back. The book is called Out of the Darkness, and
the Michelle Bless story.
Michelle Bless story. You definitely want to go to her website. Your website is
outofdarknessministry.com. When you pull it up, you're going to see several Out of Darkness, but look on the side of it where it will say Out of the Darkness, the Michelle Bless story. And you can purchase my book through Amazon.com, iUniverse, or BarnesandNobles.com.
Well, Michelle, I'm glad that I had you on the show. And everybody that comes on the show, I always, either they bring an album, something old school, or they pick something out of the classic old school crate. Michelle picked out a classic of Rick James, You and I, and I'm going to go out the show with that. And I want you to tune in next time and make sure. Is there any Facebook?
Yeah, I would like for anyone, whoever wants to Facebook me, you can Facebook me as Evangelist Francis Walker. Or if you want to email me at michellebless@ymail.com. If you want to talk to me, I can be reached at area code 513, of course, 485-3518. Classic.
That was, yeah. I got to have you back on the show.
Anytime.
That was
anytime.
Some really deep stuff. It did a lot for me because when you start talking about your father, and I knew right then immediately, the first thing that came to my mind was forgiveness. And it's something that I always struggle with. I struggle with, I don't struggle with it when somebody can acknowledge, like, if I stole from you, or what I said about you, that was wrong. But it's like when you don't acknowledge
when
that.
You don't acknowledge it at all.
It's kind of like, so you still, that's where you still at,
I know.